Not long ago, I ranked and reviewed every episode of the Sarah Jane Adventures Series 1, and oh boy, it was a joyous return to this beloved Doctor Who spin-off show. Series 1 of the Sarah Jane Adventures was a huge success, so as all successful shows do, they got straight to work on Series 2. Wow, look at this, my fellow channel members who continue to support this channel. Damn, I love you guys. Have fun commenting with your custom emojis. Tee. Wait, what's that? You want them too? Well, feel free to join my memberships today. But either way, I thank you guys very much for supporting this channel as always. Anyways, back to Sarah Jane. Series 2 aired in 2008, a truly iconic year in the Doctor Who universe. However, that is just me wearing my huge rose-tinted glasses. But you guys know the drill. I break down every single episode. Literally 90% of these videos are just plot breakdown at this point. However, I do like to add a little bit of spice. Give my thoughts and opinions, then pop them in my super hot tier list. Damn. Ranking from perfect down to the pits of hell in god awful. Oh, and by the way, I'm changing how I'm doing it. I won't be ranking them each episode at a time. I'll be ranking the story as a whole. So I have had to make some adjustments to the Series 1 rankings I did. All explanations will be revealed when I do my overall Sarah Jane video in the future. But this is what it looks like now. You can pause it, take a good old look. Thank you. And now I'm going to go back to begging just a little bit more. If you do enjoy this video, please do leave a like, only if you like the video, of course. And if you haven't, subscribe. That 10,000 is looking pretty juicy right now, so yeah, I'd be greatly appreciated if you could just pop that little, press that little red button. And without further ado, let's review the Sarah Jane Adventures Series 2. Bars. The Lost Suntarin. Oh guys, how I've missed you. My brain has been smothered with torchwood at the moment. So it's great to see Sarah and Maria back again. We cut to Lee Mack's stunt double who works with his daughter in some base in the woods somewhere. They like stars and stuff. But wait, there's all of these strange orb things flying about. So Lee Mack decides to go and investigate. However, he then disappears. What's she screaming at? Yay, Alan's back! But it just isn't good news, guys. He's got a letter about a possible new job, and Maria surprisingly convinces him to take the job. Damn, this means this is going to be their last story. So the gang go to investigate this little base. Christ, the size of that satellite dish! Damn, somebody was paying for Sky Plus back in the day, Jesus. The gang's investigation gets interrupted when Lee Mack's daughter comes in screaming. What is that? What in the GCSE drama was that? Lucy explains that her dad has gone missing to film the 96th series of Would I Lie to You, and she hasn't seen him since. This is when Maria breaks the news to Sarah about Alan's new job, and Sarah takes it pretty strangely.
Well, that's excellent news.
Yeah, how can I leave all this behind?
Nothing stays the same forever. If there's anything I've learned in my life, it's that.
Why are you being like this?
It's very odd to me because in Series 1, when Alan said that Maria couldn't see her anymore, she took it very well and was very understandable. However, she's done a complete 180 and appears to be quite frosty about this. Luke and Clyde are off gallivanting in the woods when, OM Jizzle, a Sontaran appears. Run. Luke and Clyde manage to escape where they find an invisible ship. Well, there we go. Lee Mack returns from filming Not Going Out Series 43, but he's a little bit different. He seems to have lost his classic wit.
Now, if you'll excuse us, I'd like to take care of my daughter.
However, Sarah Jane is fully aware that something is up with him.
He didn't look like a worried father who's been out hunting for his missing daughter. In fact, he didn't act like her father at all.
Okay, so why did you leave Lucy on her own with him?
Dad?
Sarah heads to the woods to find Luke and Clyde, where she sonics the invisible ship to discover that it is in fact a Sontaran ship. And Sarah gets hella spooked.
We have to get out of here right now. Back to the car, quickly.
Sontar, ha!
Maria comes up with this cracking idea to escape.
Look, unit!
For God's sake. I know that the Sontarans are completely stupid, but for Sarah to say these are brutal killers, for it to be preceded with the Sontaran being so stupidly pranked, just removes any threat whatsoever. And of course, we have some extreme Chibnall level aiming. Sarah then heads back to the base in which the Sontaran follows her. He then goes on to explain all of the events of the Poison Sky in Series 4 of Doctor Who, explaining that when the mothership exploded, his ship fell through the atmosphere. Thank you. And now he is the last remaining Sontaran. I will say, I do love a good little tie-in to the main show. It's very nice. It's also presented really nicely, especially because visually, this episode has been pretty poor up to this point. This Sontaran explains a plan that is actually way more effective than the whole plot of the Poison Sky story. The plan is to knock all of the satellites into the Earth's orbit and cause like a nuclear reaction to wipe out the planet. Why didn't they just do this in the first place when they had like a whole fleet? But damn, this episode sucked, I can't lie. Literally the only good thing was the Sontaran explaining the story of how he ended up there. Literally everything else sucks. It looks cheap. Sarah acts pretty out of character. Her reaction to Maria's news, actively putting Lucy in danger, which does actually result in her going missing. And other than that, nothing else happens. I'm hoping the second part can pick this story up drastically. Part 2. Oh, Sarah Jane's been game-ended.
She lives.
Oh. She's not been game-ended. He explains that he shot her, but she lives. Does that mean his gun's just actually pretty much useless? It doesn't matter anyway, because we get some more Chibnall aiming anyway. Maybe if you just picked up the pace a little bit and stopped screaming and then stopping to shoot, you might have actually got something. Oh, here we go. They're at a dead end now. There's no way the Sontaran can miss. Shoot then, Sontaran. Shoot then, Sontaran. Why did he stop on the stairs and go, this is my gun. I have reloaded my gun. Now I'll take leisurely stroll upstairs. This episode is really not doing a great job of making the Sontarans look like a huge threat. It's making them look really stupid. And I know there is that kind of Sontarans are silly spud people, but... Maria calls Alan to help and says that he needs to call Mr. Smith. However, Chrissy gets suspicious of this.
Mr. Smith. I need you.
I like how Alan kind of cringes saying this, because it is kind of a weird thing to say to get a computer's attention. Chrissy, yet again, climbs through Sarah Jane's window. Honestly, Sarah, how you don't lock your windows is beyond me.
Sontarans do not eat food. They intake pure energy.
What on earth is going on?
Chrissy.
Mum?
Oh dear. So yeah, Alan explains everything to Chrissy, and she surprisingly takes it very well.
Come on, we've got to help our daughter.
Maria then breaks the news to Luke that she's going to leave.
I gotta go my own way.
And he doesn't take it well either.
You can't go, Maria. I don't want you to go, but you've always been here.
I know, and...
So Sarah and Lucy lock Lee Mack in a cupboard, and then we get some more terrible shooty stuff.
I'm not sure we've got time.
Oh no, now there's a countdown. This feels like this episode was written by Chris Chibnall. Like, everything about it so far is so Chris Chibnall. And of course, all it takes is for Luke to do some typey techno-babble gibberish stuff on the keyboard and the system shuts down. Of course. Psych! The Sontaran has a plan B!
The third law of battle. Always have a plan B.
Yeah, so this episode tries to make the Sontaran seem super smart with its rules of war, but this Sontaran has been pretty pathetic the whole way through. Anyway, Chrissy is the one to come in and save the day by jamming her high heels in the Sontaran's neck.
Try my side 5, okay?
Oh my god. Jesus. Chrissy got yeeted. I suppose that couldn't be any more in character if she tried. The Sontaran leaves all embarrassed or whatever, and that is that. And of course, it results in them trying to gaslight Chrissy again.
Tripped. Banged your head.
I was really worried, Mum.
So Maria says her goodbyes, and Sarah actually apologises for reacting so poorly when she told her that she was leaving.
Losing the daughter I always wanted.
It is a sweet goodbye, but I don't know, I guess I'm just more sad about the fact that I'm saying goodbye to Big Alan, man. Big Al.
The Sontaran? What really happened with my shoe? Don't worry, I won't say anything.
Oh, Chrissy remembers. But Maria and Alan head off, and that is the end of that. I'll get my thoughts on the episode out of the way first. So, the story sucked. It was cheap and pretty damn boring. I know the Sontaran's whole thing is like, oh, silly little potato man with short man syndrome, ha ha ha. But in this episode, it was particularly annoying. The story yet again relied on Luke being big-brained to get out of a sticky situation and typing in random codes. My favourite part of this story was Chrissy, as always. She's just such a funny character, and her using her high heels to save the day was pretty great. I don't have much else to say other than the fact that this is definitely the weakest Sarah Jane story we've seen so far, and because of that, I'm putting this episode in stinky. I'm gonna miss Alan, my favourite dad in any show I can think of, actually, apart from Wilf. He's technically Sylvia's dad, so... But he's such a great character, a really brilliant sense of humour, and just a really good dad all round, even if he lets his daughter get almost game-ended by aliens on a weekly basis. And of course, Yasmin Page as Maria, such a quality actress. I give child actors a really hard time in the Doctor Who universe, but she's a truly brilliant actress, and it's such a shame she chose to leave to focus on her GCSEs. Nerd. But it's bittersweet that she left the show, and it is a bit of a shame she left on such a pants episode, but she was instrumental to this show being a success from the off. But maybe it's time for a new audience surrogate. It's time for her to be replaced with Rani. As a kid, I instantly took a liking to Rani, solely because I was just madly in love with her.
You fancy 8-year-olds?
However, for now, she's taking Maria's spot, and it all starts with the next story, The Day of the Clown. These lads are playing a game of football, but of course, Timo Werner over here loses the damn ball, so he goes to find it. God damn. This, I think we can all agree, is the scariest episode of the Sarah Jane Adventures. This scared all of us. But is the story as good as my brain tells me? Well, let's find out. I also just realised it's yet another story about child abduction. For some reason in Ealing, all the aliens want are the kids. Luke is struggling with the fact that Maria is no longer around. However, there is a new family moving in across the road. Conveniently, another girl who is the exact same age as Maria, and who happens to be going to the same school.
I start today. And you run into me. Now that's what I call a start.
Damn, Clyde has L-Riz. Am I right, gamers? It then cuts to them all in class, and they're all cheering on Luke to join the science team or something. Even the teacher's enjoying it. But moody new head teacher comes in and absolutely ruins it.
That's enough! Silence, a lot of you!
Ugh, what a boomer. Am I right, gamers? Don't forget to skibbity-riz that subscribe button, or Baby Gronk will do the griddy for Ukraine, or whatever. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to, widen the demographic. You know how it is.
This is a classroom, not the home end at Stamford Bridge.
Right, listen, okay. I am a Chelsea fan, right? And even I will admit that this is a terrible analogy. Literally, you could have said hundreds of other football teams that have a louder atmosphere than Stamford Bridge. Anfield, Old Trafford, St James's Park. Chelsea is definitely not a good example of this. I realise now that this is the second time that Phil Ford has added a Chelsea reference, so I'm guessing he must be a fan.
You boy, sit up straight and pay attention. And that goes for all of you.
Seriously, man, what is this dude's problem? Jesus. So whilst the new head teacher grills Clyde, Rani sees a clown in the window flirting with her.
That if you see anything or anyone suspicious, to tell the police.
Yeah, not us, because we couldn't give less of a shit. Clyde launches a basketball at Mr. Rani's head. Sorry, I forget his name. So he sends Clyde to his office.
My office now!
This is where Clyde then gets a glimpse of the scary clown.
Hey!
It gets worse.
All I wanted to do is give you a balloon.
Damn, I completely forgot that Bradley Walsh puts on this American accent, but damn, it's so strange. When Clyde is leaving the school, he then spots Bradley Walsh clown again. So Clyde chases him, and just as he's about to reach out for the balloon, Rani comes out of nowhere to stop him. Where did you come from, love? Luke and Clyde try to convince Rani to let the police deal with it, to avoid attention being brought onto Sarah Jane. However, Rani is just a little bit too curious, and then their conversation gets interrupted by this.
Something about me you ought to know. Rani, please tell me there's a good reason why our new head just pulled up outside your house that doesn't involve the word dad.
So Sarah Jane comes over and introduces herself to Rani.
I'm really interested in becoming a reporter. Maybe I could come over sometime.
Oh, well, I really am rather busy.
I will say, Luke seems to be a lot more human in this series. He's got more wit about him and doesn't seem as awkward, and I'm enjoying the dynamic between these three a hell of a lot more. Meanwhile, Rani's back at home and Bradley's come back to do some more flirting. It's then revealed that a clown was seen giving out tickets for the circus. Rani and Clyde even have one themselves, which they just seem to have forgotten. Surely that would have been the first thing they would have put together. It leads them to this museum and Sarah admits that she has a phobia of clowns. This is when Bradley Walsh appears and spooks the hell out of Sarah.
To Spellman's Magical Museum of the Circus.
So it's revealed to us that Bradley Walsh is actually the Pied Piper, known for luring kids away from their parents. And I actually didn't realise this was part of that story. I just thought the Pied Piper just really loved rats. I don't know. But it turns out he was never paid for clearing away the rats, so he come back to kidnap a load of kids. Damn. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Bradley. You could have just contacted ACAS. I don't know, just talk about unpaid wages. The stakes are raising as Rani and Luke then bump into Sarah and Clyde when all of the clowns are moving and stuff. It's very spooky. I really like how Sarah wants to keep things under wraps as well, but just can't help but flex her Sonic lipstick when she gets the opportunity.
Sonic lipstick. Never leave home without it.
However, the episode ends on a cliffhanger in which Bradley says he's going to feed on them.
And you are mine to feed on.
So yeah, I did make this episode sound silly, but this episode is really unnerving. It's spooky, it's gripping, and if you're gonna do a story about an alien snatching kids, this is definitely the way to do it. I absolutely love it. It's still as uncomfortable as I remember, but obviously not as spooky, because, you know, I'm a big boy adult, and I don't get scared of nothing. I don't even get scared of nothing. But I will say, it's a brilliant first part, and I think Rani's been introduced pretty spectacularly so far. Part 2. So Sarah tries to extinguish Bradley Walsh, but it doesn't work. Rani's phone then starts ringing, and then Bradley just starts doing the mannequin challenge.
That girl is a real crowd, please.
It's Brandon!
Small world.
This then plays out exactly the same as it did with Maria. Rani says, I can't just go home after that, you silly goofballs. So Sarah gives Rani an ultimatum.
I'm going to offer you a choice, Rani. Go back to your parents, and nothing will have changed. Or you can come with me. If you do that, nothing will ever be the same again.
Rani obviously agrees to stay and is shown Sarah's alien attic. Mr. Smith shows more of that absolute sass when Rani gets a little bit too comfortable.
What about the Pied Piper?
I'm sorry. I don't think we've been introduced.
Mr. Smith then explains that the story of the Pied Piper is actually true, which I think is just such a cool concept to tie in with this story. I absolutely love it. However, it is somewhat ruined by the fact that Sarah then asks Mr. Smith to show historical extraterrestrial data in the 13th century, where we then see this drawing of a map. Like, how is this data even possible? There were literally no satellites or any way of gathering any of this data. Like, come on, Sarah Jane Adventures. The only good part of this scene, despite its complete unbelievability, is Rani constantly jumping the gun and getting excited, showing that she is curious and eager to help, pushing that characterization that she wants to be a journalist. And even whilst Mr. Smith is correcting her and getting a little bit snarky, Sarah Jane does notice her eagerness and she does appreciate it. So Sarah then gives Rani a force field to put in her room. How about, Sarah, you put this in your house, seeing as everyone just has a tendency to just climb through your window. The next day, Rani's mum tries to enter her room.
Morning. Oh, Mum!
And of course, Rani just gaslights her mum into thinking it's a migraine. Damn. Justice for mums in Sarah Jane Adventures, man. They just get gaslit all the time. Sarah then goes back to the research facility from Series 1 and steals a piece of the Pied Piper's meteorite before she gets stopped by Bradley Walsh.
What are you doing, Miss Smith?
I tell you what, right? I think Bradley would have made an excellent toy maker if Neil wasn't available and he didn't play Graham. That god-awful character, Jesus. In the school playground, all these red balloons appear and the children start to be controlled.
Where are the kids?
What do you mean, where are the kids? You just watch them leave. Are you okay? So guys, how is the day saved? Mr. Smith rings the students' phones by accessing school records? Right. First of all, not every student would have had a mobile phone in 2008. So what about the students who didn't have phones? They all literally got game ended for being a massive brokey. Damn. Second of all, no student has their mobile phone number on school records. So what would have actually happened is all of their parents would have just been rung by a computer and all of these children would have been snatched anyway. I think this is a bit of a plot contrivance, don't you think?
The phone signals are interfering with Spellman's power.
Wow, gee, thanks Clyde for that ADR explanation. Epic. Obviously Bradley Walsh is fuming about this, so he decides to kidnap Luke. So Sarah has to go back to the museum to try and get him back. I will say, there's something so classic Who about this, and I love it. Clyde and Rani get into the museum by, oh, look at that. Another unlocked window. Sarah continues to confront Bradley Walsh, but I will say he gives one hell of a performance. He is truly spooky.
Tastes like fear to me.
What have you done with Luke?
More range in this performance alone than he ever did with Graham. So Clyde comes in and tells some jokes, which scares the living shit out of Bradley Walsh.
What do you call a fish with no eyes? A magician. He's driving down the road and he turns into his house.
So Bradley climbs into his meteorite and leaves, and the day is saved. Sarah then convinces Rani to keep this whole thing a secret because the universe is all magical and stuff.
Not weird, Mum. Surprising. The universe is a surprising place.
So, it is still just as spooky as I remember. Bradley Walsh is absolutely brilliant in this. I think the way they introduce Rani's character is pretty perfect, to be honest, showcasing her curiosity due to her aspiration of becoming a journalist. I think the gang overall has matured somewhat, all seeming a lot more confident in what they're doing. Yeah, the plot contrivance for the resolution was a bit weak, but I do think the spookiness of Odd Bob the Clown really made up for it. We see Sarah Jane overcome her fear of clowns, and Clyde actually using his quote-unquote comedy to save Luke. Very good stuff. Ladies and babies, I think this is a great one. I think this is great. I'm going to put this story in great. Secrets of the Stars, Part 1. The episode starts with a bald man who is just a spiritual queen, yas. Don't get me wrong, he starts off all sweet and inspirational, but then he rejects this woman's money and then just admits to being an absolute fraud.
I'm a fraud. I was just making it all up. There's no power in the stars.
He then gets like engulfed in all this red stuff. Okay, I'm a little bit confused. He then cybermans this poor woman. Wow, rest in peace. So we learn that Clyde is actually a Gemini. This is where he gets some of that spiritual Gemini hate.
Gemini. Lazy, shallow.
There.
Speaking as a Gemini myself, right, I have been subject to Gemini discrimination all my life, all right? So just back off, punks. I think star signs should be a protected characteristic at this point, alright? Because we get so much hate for no reason. We see the woman from the start of the episode who's clearly been possessed by this bald man. This raises Sarah's suspicions.
Hang on, there's your story. I can't even have one night out without something weird happening.
But the gang have gone to watch this bald fraud's free show, Secrets of the Stars. Get it? It's the episode name, guys. He goes into full Darren Brown mode, doing some hypnosis stuff, when he calls out Rani and absolutely exposes her.
You suddenly see the world in a new light. It's exciting and you love it.
Yes.
However, Sarah Jane, well, she's having absolutely none of it. But of course, inevitably, the bald man then calls her out.
No, a doctor. The doctor.
Hello, Sarah Jane.
He then tells Sarah that she is about to fight another battle. Oh my Jesus, how ominous is this, guys? Despite the old Gemini discrimination, right, this episode has me intrigued so far. A woman comes in and offers this Truman man an interview in which he will speak to the world. Ugh. Mr. Smith does a little scanny scan and he finds no anomalies. He doesn't think there's any alien involvement. The episode then takes a moment to focus on Luke, who admits to feeling a little bit confused about the fact that he doesn't really have a birthday, and it's upsetting him that everyone else gets one. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, 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 wow. Of course, Sarah Jane reassures him, but Luke, mate, be grateful you don't have a birthday, alright? They're bloody depressing. It is literally just an indication that you are one step closer to the coffin. So Sarah goes to interview Truman. This is where he calls her out for endangering children.
You've been lying to her mother, haven't you? Oh, dear, Miss Smith.
At first, I was completely on board with this guy's performance, but then it just takes a turn. It goes from like mild cheddar to just pure Stilton in a matter of seconds.
All the power of the stars!
Yeah, so it's still unclear what his plan actually is, but he knows that Sarah is going to keep intervening, so Truman targets Clyde. But he targets Clyde because he's a Gemini, and they're two-faced. This is astrologism, targeting us based off some Gemini stereotypes. I'm fuming, mate. So the gang deduce that this undetectable energy they're looking for came before the Big Bang, where the laws of physics were completely different. Martin Truman then appears on every channel in the world, somehow. How did he do that? And he threatens Sarah Jane live on the air.
She really should stop, or people could get hurt.
Uh-oh, it's interrupted because Clyde comes in all evil and stuff. A handheld earthquake preset is applied and the world is now ending. So I think this is a prime example of the Sarah Jane Adventures being too ambitious for its own good. Sure, the premise of using astrology is really interesting, but it's just another Sarah Jane story where an alien comes to Ealing and wants to take over the world. I just feel like it's getting a little bit boring, you know what I mean? I definitely feel this more since recently going back to Torchwood, because in Torchwood, world domination is quite rare. I didn't really remember this episode, and to be honest, it was just a bit meh. Part 2. The cliffhanger is instantly resolved by Sarah telling Clyde, "Hey, this isn't you. This isn't you, Clyde." Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Bald Truman Showman hypnotizes everyone based on their star signs. Of course, Gemini's first. You're asking for a fight, Sarah Jane Adventures.
I will be king of the world.
They then do that typical flick through all the news channels to show the effect it's had on the rest of the world.
The president holding hands with the wife of the prime minister of Kazakhstan.
What? So Sarah believes the solution to this is to just talk Truman out of it. Okay. I do find the sequence in which they try to get into the theatre quite funny.
Mars has entered the Milky Way and Aero is in conjunction with the galaxy.
They got a good chuckle out of me. Well done, Clyde. Of course, Sarah Jane tries to talk Truman out of it, but he explains that before this, he was just a nobody, and now he's enjoying this so much or something. Wow. So, guys, how is the day saved? Well, of course, Luke saves the day because he doesn't have a star sign. Yeah, that conversation with Sarah earlier about him not having a birthday had some relevance.
He's my son, and he's the centre of my universe.
Okay. I'm starting to get to a point now where this over-reliance on Luke saving the day just because he's a big-brain test tube baby is starting to get a little bit annoying, alright? He is the perfect character for an easy solution to any episode. But I'm starting to notice a few common tropes within the Sarah Jane Adventures. I'll list them. So the alien motives always seem to be abduct children or world domination. And the resolutions always tend to be Luke not being born naturally coming to a convenient advantage. Luke has big-brain computer skills that can hack into anything to type in any code to save the day. Though that's Sarah Jane Adventures in a nutshell. I like how astrology was utilised originally, but looking at the overall story, the recruiting the people based on their star signs just makes no sense to me, honestly. And there was just too much Gemini hate, to be honest with you. The first part was definitely better, however, overall, this story is just a bit naff. The resolution, again, being Luke saving the day just because he's so super special is not good enough in my opinion, alright? We've used it too many times. I think Rani was good in this episode, being the one to come up with the theory that the energy used was from another universe. Yeah, she's a great problem solver. I like it. I also think that the dynamic with her parents being the polar opposite to Maria's is really good. Her parents work really well together, and not every character needs to have some sort of broken dynamic or trauma.
Today, me being different was a good thing.
Oh, okay, we get it. We get it. Yeah, guys, this story sucked. All right, so I'm putting this in stinky. Mark of the Berserker is up next, and despite the episode's funny name, this is an episode I fondly remember. The episode starts with a kid in detention, and he's being bullied.
Shut up! Shut up!
Whoa, what the flip? This kid has the ability to make people do as they're told, and then it's revealed he has all these blue veins. Of course, it's due to this magical talisman thing, but Rani finds it and slides it into her pocket. We are finally introduced to Clyde's mum, and Luke and Clyde are having a little sleepover. How cute.
We're not girls. It's not a sleepover, you're just staying the weekend.
Rani starts testing out the talisman by telling her dad to do EastEnders impressions.
Do Bianca from EastEnders.
Ricky! Whitney!
It's funny because he was actually an evil man in EastEnders around this time. Funny. Boy who originally had the pendant turns up at Rani's house to explain that he found it in the school field and it's just super evil and stuff. I like this so far. This episode is very Torchwood-esque. Like, I can imagine Torchwood using this concept, except everyone would just be making everyone bonk each other, let's be real. Oh, and Sarah Jane has gone on holiday, so she ain't about. Yeah, so she's not included. Are we getting a Sarah Light episode? So because Sarah's not around, Rani leaves the pendant in her attic. Luke and Clyde's sleepover is interrupted by Clyde's dad.
Hello, son.
Dad? All we've heard about him so far is that he's not been involved in Clyde's life and he's been a deadbeat. Damn, I can actually relate on that. Obviously, this comes as a bit of a shock to Clyde, causing an array of emotions. Clyde's dad having a very nonchalant attitude about being so absent gives a real indication as to what a piece of work he really is.
I got expelled.
Yeah, all right, I'm sorry, mate.
You're sorry.
Clyde starts feeling really strong anger towards him when his dad says he wants to start seeing him. I tell you what, this episode really resonates with me because when this episode aired, I was going through the exact same situation. My dad randomly turned up in my life and had such a blasé attitude about not being around. And at that time, it was confusing, but it was exciting. The chance to impress my dad and show him how well I'm doing despite him not really even caring. And this is exactly what happens with Clyde. He starts feeling the need to almost impress his dad. With that, he reveals what he does with Sarah Jane.
I saved the world.
I mean, granted, I didn't have anything that cool to say to my dad. I told him I'd made my own TARDIS using old keyboards and worn out tech, and that I make my own Doctor Who episodes using an iToy webcam, and that I wear a dressing gown as my long coat. So Clyde shows his dad Sarah's attic, and of course, he sees nothing but dollar signs.
You can make a fortune on eBay. If we could just mass produce this.
Is that what you think about?
He then finds the pendant hanging there, so he secretly nabs it, the fucking bastard. As they are leaving Sarah Jane's house, they are confronted by Mr. Chandra.
Come on, mate, it's not that serious. Just drop it, eh?
So Clyde and his dad are unaware of what this pendant can do. They're finding it super hilarious. They start telling him to do push-ups and things. But Rani and Luke turn up. Rani instantly knows that Clyde's dad has stolen the pendant. But Clyde, well, he comes to defense of his good old dad, doesn't he?
Don't you go round accusing my dad of nicking stuff. Who do you think you are?
But in a shocking twist of events, Clyde's dad then tells Clyde to completely forget about Rani and Luke.
Sorry, do I know you?
What? Clyde?
Damn, what a cliffhanger. I rate this episode so highly, mainly because I resonate with it so much. The effect that his dad's absence has on Clyde is perfectly justifiable. He feels that need to impress him, even though deep down his dad doesn't really care. And all along he has some secret ulterior motive. This is something I 100,000,000% relate to. I like that this episode gradually builds to revealing this. There's no cheesy aliens or villains, just a deadbeat dad taking advantage, and how situations like this can completely screw with their children. Wow. Part 2. So Clyde's dad now knows the power of the pendant and then starts to go berserk. We cut to Sarah, who's busy chasing this terrible CGI slug thing, you know, just to show us how busy she is. So the gang call Maria and Alan? What? They're back? They've literally been gone for one story and they're already back? They ask Alan to hack into UNIT to find out what this pendant is. Of course, because hacking into private military services and the government is so super easy. I don't know why the Doctor Who universe keeps doing stuff like this. Clyde's dad uses the pendant to get a free Ferrari. So Alan finds out that yes, using the pendant does make you go all berserk and stuff, because it belongs to a race called the Berserkers. And if you use it too much, it will turn you into a berserker. Just every time I say that, it just sounds more stupid. There's a montage of Clyde and his dad doing lots of shopping and having a great old time. That must be nice. But Clyde goes back to confronting his dad about why he left.
Why did you leave?
So his dad says, "Oi, shut up, man. Shut up, man, and forget about your mum, yeah?"
Forget about your mum.
So Alan helps Luke, Rani and Clyde's mum track Clyde so they can go and find him. When they eventually catch up to them though, Clyde's dad has gone full-blown berserk, man. We see the heartbreaking moment where Clyde doesn't even recognise his own mum.
What are you doing? Get off me! Who are you?
Clyde, that's not funny, seriously.
But this moment is somewhat hindered by the berserker alien when it says that it wants to, yes, you guessed it, take over the world. Damn, we were so close to having a story where this doesn't happen. But hey ho, Sarah Jane just comes in out of nowhere to convince Clyde to save the day. Clyde gets his dad to remember the good old days, when he was actually a good dad. He of course wins the battle and takes off the pendant. Hooray! Clyde remembers everyone and the day is saved. Clyde's dad then reveals that his partner, who is Clyde's aunt by the way, is pregnant. Meaning that Clyde is going to have a cousin who is also his sibling at the same time. Lovely bit of incest, that. Love that. His dad then leaves. Clyde uses the pendant to make his mum forget about the events of the day. Justice for everyone's mums who keep getting gaslit or brainwashed. I really do like this episode and the actual focus of it. The impact of an absent father and the confusion it causes when they turn up out of the blue. And trust me when I say I speak from experience. Sometimes it's better for an absent father to stay absent. Clyde, of course, learns this lesson the hard way, but he also gets some peace from this, knowing that he's better off without his dad and how strong he is as a person. Bloody brilliant stuff. So, a good old story with some excellent character development, and the resolution didn't rely on Luke being a big special big brain boy hero. We also get Alan and Maria back as well, which I absolutely love. I really don't have anything negative to say about this story. So, guys, I am putting this story in great. The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith. I'll tell you what, I think this is another episode that is stapled into the hearts of many Sarah Jane Adventures fans. Mr. Bumhole-Faced Man is back! We see a little man from what looks like the 50s running as the gang are trying to chase him. Yet somehow Clyde ends up in front of him. But it turns out there's this portal leading to another time. They believe that this terrible child actor came through by accident, so Sarah helps send him back by going with him. Why did she go with him? But oh my god, guys, it turns out that this is in fact where Sarah Jane's parents were game ended. Now, I'm not sure if Sarah's backstory was ever really explained in Classic Who, but I would assume we've not really heard about her parents. So it's really intriguing to find out where Sarah came from. Sarah explains how her parents tragically died in a car accident. However, they had left her on the side of the road before the crash. So Sarah is convinced that her parents ditched her. But I don't know about you, but these circumstances sound pretty suspicious, actually. Sarah explains that she doesn't know her parents, so the temptation of getting to know them is starting to take over a little bit.
It must be a trap. Which is another reason for not going.
Yeah, exactly. So don't bloody do it, Sarah. No, Sarah! No! No, no, no! Luckily, Luke sees her, so I'm sure he's going to stop her.
What would you do?
I'd go.
No, guys, you already know. You've said this already. You know it's a trap. Why are you doing this? Oh, look at that. The portal starts to close the second she goes through it. Luckily, though, Luke gets through just in time.
We should go back.
What do you mean, Sarah? You should go back. You literally just came through. What? Clyde and Rani instantly get suspicious, so they ask Mr. Smith, hey, where did Sarah go? But he has no clue.
Where are Sarah Jane and Luke?
Down. Fuck it.
This is when Maria's box from Series 1 starts glowing. Sarah Jane and Luke are wandering through the town when
Sarah Jane.
the temptation of her getting to know her mum is just growing too strong, so Sarah introduces herself. Sarah is a little bit bamboozled when she realises that her parents, in fact, adored her. So this perception she's had of them for so long has been very, very wrong. Further making the temptation of Sarah Jane Smith even stronger. Sarah has this look of childlike wonder. Whenever her mum speaks, it's really bittersweet, but she starts to get a little bit overwhelmed, so she decides it's time to leave. However, she sees the date and she realises it's the day that her parents died. Oh my god, the plot thickens. Sarah becomes adamant to stay and save the day. She's now lost all sense of rational thinking. She breaks the car that her parents would have inevitably have driven, which will indeed have consequences. Rani and Clyde go to the portal where this little boy comes through. Okay, right, that was a little goofy. Alright, what is happening? What is going on? Sarah and Luke walk through the portal to find they are in a destroyed London. Hang on a minute. This was done very recently. Time has been altered and the trickster appears.
You gave this planet to the trickster.
Damn, what an episode, man. Real Father's Day vibes. Another situation in which the temptation to save a deceased family member takes over a character that usually thinks completely rationally. Elisabeth Sladen is absolutely brilliant in this episode, and everything has been set up for an epic second-parter. Part 2. The trickster explains that due to the butterfly effect on her saving her parents, Sarah has given Trickster access to the Earth. There is this really funny moment, however, in which Sarah is slating the doctor for not being there when she needs him, and then she finds a police box.
Yes. Yes.
You won't find a doctor in here, my love.
Actually, that police box isn't historically accurate, and therefore Sarah is justified in thinking that it was actually the TARDIS. But hey guys, of course, it's the 1950s. Police boxes exist. Rani and Clyde see a group of people who are now slaves, and one of them is, of course, Rani's mum.
We're the last humans.
So because Sarah wanted to know her mummy and daddy, there's like 3 humans left. Right. Clyde and Rani then chat to the Grask to convince him to send them to 1951. The Grask then tells his backstory and explains that the trickster tricked him and made him his slave. So they convince him to open the portal in return for the protection box. It's actually quite a smart bargain, actually. Fair play.
Yes, hello, ethnic person in the 50s, hi.
Sarah Jane woke. Sarah Jane Adventures woke. Sarah Jane Adventures woke. Get it off my TV right now. Rani, the fucking spanner, finds Sarah and shouts out,
Sarah Jane, how did you get here? Long story. Why did you call her that?
nice one. Although I do find it really funny that Sarah was calling herself Victoria Beckham. So the trickster's coming through the Abbott's gateway, and Sarah Jane's mum comes to the realisation that something is wrong with them.
It's to do with us.
What?
Something's wrong with us.
Sarah Jane's mum realises that Sarah Jane is actually her daughter. They go and find Sarah and tell her that they will get in the car and put time right. Meaning that this whole time they ditched Sarah to save her. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This really beautiful scene where Sarah Jane says goodbye to her parents. Man, Elisabeth Sladen in this whole story has just been incredible. So Sarah's parents go and game end themselves and the day is saved. The trickster gets Thanos'd and then they return home. One thing I will say, the character development in this series so far has been amazing. What we've had with Rani, Clyde, and now Sarah Jane, I'm just loving it. The trickster in this episode is not the main focal point. It's more Sarah finding out who her parents are. Her whole life she had been doubting them just to find out the reason that they had left her was to save her. Fucking brilliant. I think this being a kids show is the reason they focus so much on broken home dynamics and the importance of parents, as well as understanding there are different situations, and that actually being a parent is super bloody difficult as well. Even in the ending where Rani tells her dad how much she loves him and it kind of freaks him out, it just sends out a really good message to kids to cherish their parents. I think if this was an episode of Doctor Who or Torchwood, it would have been nice to see a bit more of what the trickster was actually trying to achieve instead of just, I like being a bit of a prick, Sarah Jane Smith. I'm just such a naughty boy, Sarah Jane Smith. The resolution to this episode was really lovely. Sarah learned a valuable lesson about the butterfly effect as well. The performances all round were just fucking brilliant, apart from this kid, who also just disappears in this story. Don't know where he went. But I think it's lovely. And guys, I'm doing it. It's the first. I'm putting this episode in perfect. The Enemy of the Bane. Part 1. Rani and the fam are setting up for dinner. Maria's mum is stuck at work, but someone knocks on the door.
Wormwood. Mrs. Wormwood.
Oh shit, Mrs. Wormwood's back, and for some reason she knocks out Rani's mum. Meanwhile, Luke is having some nightmares, but it's just the show's really clever way of reminding the audience of who Mrs. Wormwood is. So, Rani's mum has disappeared. Another classic Sarah Jane Adventures abduction. The gang go to her mum's shop to find a cheque left behind by Mrs. Wormwood. Although I will say, if Mrs. Wormwood was just trying to get Sarah's attention, why didn't she just go to Sarah Jane's house, you know, where she lives? But Mr. Smith deciphers a code that leads Sarah to this spooky warehouse.
I want your help.
Wait, what? Now, Sarah's response here should have just been, hey, you know, what is it you need? Instead, she makes it known how precious Luke is to her.
Well, now he is my son, and I will protect him with my life.
So, of course, Mrs. Wormwood uses that as a threat against her.
Then you have no option but to help me.
Yeah, Sarah, you're not the best at talking with aliens, are you, love? Mrs. Wormwood says that the whole universe is under threat. Of course. Before some bald man appears.
You are an enemy of the Bane kindred.
Oh, so Mrs. Wormwood is on the run, is she? Yeah, they turn into those terrible CGI squid things, but Mrs. Wormwood uses her magic ring to escape. I can't lie, this looks so goofy. But Mrs. Wormwood does save her.
I'm not past my sell-by date yet.
Sarah takes Mrs. Wormwood to the attic, and this is where you could instantly tell that this is just a bad idea.
Mrs. Wormwood is Bane.
How much makeup does it take before you get out in the morning?
Bazinga, Clyde. That was actually a good one. I like that one.
I made you rather handsome, didn't I? For a human.
Oh no. Mrs. Wormwood's a nonce. So there's this legend of Horath, who's like immortal and stuff, and the Bane have found like half of his consciousness and they need to find the other half and the body or something. Anyway, there's some scroll that has it, but it's stored in the Black Archive at Unit. It's so blatantly clear that Mrs. Wormwood is trapping them so she can take over the world. And if I'm right, this is really bloody stupid from Sarah. And on top of that, Sarah leaves Luke with her. Why?
Sarah Jane Smith.
Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. Damn. It's so surreal that as a kid, I had no idea who this man was or his relevance. Damn. It's so cool to see him make a return in Modern Who. Love it. Luke, for some reason, starts having this, oh, Mrs. Wormwood's made me. She's my mummy. I need to see her for a moment. Ugh, shut up, mate. This is where she manipulates him with some more of that, oh, you're so special mumbo jumbo. And they actually end up bonding. She even does the cliche, we aren't so different, you and I. So the Brigadier takes Sarah to Unit to help them break in, where this man hits on him.
Perhaps we could go for dinner sometime, sir.
Yeah, and then for some reason he just gets really angry.
You didn't say, sir.
What are you doing at the archive?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie though, this Black Archive looks a lot more naff than the one we get in the Stephen Moffat era, that's for sure. So yeah, Sarah breaks in and takes the scroll. This is when we cut to a Bane at Sarah Jane's front door.
Sorry, this isn't a good time.
So they try to escape, but these two terrible CGI Banes are trapping them on Sarah's driveway. Oh my god, look at it. I'll tell you what, it's so lucky as well that Bannerman Road doesn't have any pedestrians or neighbours walking by to witness any of this. Unit then hold everyone at gunpoint, but it's all good because Sarah Jane uses her Sonic lipstick to get out of it.
Sonic the earpieces!
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I saw that. Cheers. We cut back to Mrs. Wormwood about to be eaten by the Bane, and then the Sontaran from the first episode shows up? What? Mrs. Wormwood reveals that I was right all along. She did want the consciousness for herself to take over the world. Blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you what, this feels a bit Chibnally, this episode, I can't lie. Mrs. Wormwood's plan seemed really convoluted and is completely obvious from the start. Again, I know it's a kid's show, but Sarah does come across as too trusting or too damn silly at times. And now there's a Sontaran involved as well, just seems odd. But we do get the Brigadier, I guess, so that's pretty cool. I am glad he did get to appear in the modern Doctor Who universe, even if it was just for the Sarah Jane adventures. But yeah, the CGI Bane things are just really terrible, and like, it's not even like they've just aged poorly, they just look terrible. I'm hoping that the second part is better. Part 2. Clyde manages to hold off the Bane with a hose, and then Mrs. Wormwood uses her ring to make them explode. Why didn't she just do this in the first place? Because now the boys are all covered in custard. So they all decide to hide out in Rani's mum's shop, where Mrs. Wormwood absolutely roasts Sarah.
I should thank you. Then perhaps you should be indebted to me for enriching your sad, purposeless life.
Yeah, they then have this face-off with their lipstick and rings. Bitch fight. But Mr. Potato Head strolls in and just breaks Sarah Jane's Sonic. No! So they hand over the scroll and Mrs. Wormwood orders Luke to go with her. And then she just rings them all with a magical ring. Oh, and by the way, the soundtrack for this episode sucks. Mrs. Wormwood says that Luke can inherit the universe and be her prince if he agrees to be her son. And Luke has the best response ever. Of course, we get even more of that Chibnall level aiming from the Sontaran, and it even pisses off Mrs. Wormwood.
Karg the Slayer. Karg the Shambles, more like.
Sarah and the gang head back to her house, where Clyde is getting held at gunpoint by Mr. Unit Man.
Just give me the scroll!
Yeah, this Unit Man is proper over the top.
Yeah, well, it looks to me like you're sitting down on the job. Ah!
Yes, Clyde! But of course, the Unit Man is a Bane. How does an alien get into Unit? Like, this happens a few times. Like, does Unit not have, like, a vetting process for this? Considering Unit is going to be a prime target for this sort of stuff? But luckily, the Brigadier game ends in with his super spy cane. So it turns out that Mrs. Wormwood used Luke, because only humans can break this force field thing. Look, this miniature Stonehenge.
The age from Wormwood! Approaches!
Okay, sure. So guys, how is the day saved? The Sontaran runs towards Mrs. Wormwood, pushing her into this portal. Yeah, some of the worst green screen I've ever seen. Jesus. And then the portal just closes for some reason. I thought now that it's open, that was the whole point, but I guess not. Okay, sure. And then Sarah destroys the scroll with another Sonic lipstick that she had. Well, that's lucky, isn't it? This story sucks. Mrs. Wormwood spends most of this story just talking all cryptically and dramatically. The actual plot doesn't make too much sense, and of course, the resolution is just proper pants. This didn't feel like a series finale to me at all. It's more like a story that's trying to be big and bombastic when actually it just looks really cheap and nasty. It's yet more of that Sarah is Luke's mother and Luke is super special stuff, which I've said before. It's been done to death. I know that it makes sense in this story due to the fact that Mrs. Wormwood is technically Luke's mum. However, can we not just explore something else for a change? It was really cool that we got the Brigadier back for another adventure, but like that's literally the only positive of this episode. Rani and Clyde felt pretty useless. Most of this is Sarah's fault for entertaining Mrs. Wormwood in the first place. The alien in unit made no sense and actually wasn't really needed. And overall, I just found it boring, guys. It's just boring. I'm sorry. I'm putting this episode in stinky. Well, damn. 3 stories in great and 3 in stinky. This was definitely a lot more inconsistent than the first series. The best elements of this series was the introduction to Rani, playing on real fears people have, such as clowns, and this series has a really strong focus on parenthood. Day of the Clown focuses the fear brought on parents over losing their children. Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith focuses on Sarah's parents. Mark of the Berserker focuses on Clyde's fractured relationship with his dad. And Enemy of the Bane does try to do it again with Sarah and Luke, but it's definitely the weakest of those options. I find it really interesting as well that this series looks a lot cheaper than the first. Utilising the BBC costume cupboard is usually fine, but the stories that do this tend to be the worst ones. When the show attempts its own thing, that's when it seems to do best. I don't know, maybe I was too critical of this series, but it either felt really brilliant or just bad, like no in between. I don't know, let me know your opinions in the comments below. The show is still great by all means and has some incredibly touching moments, and the character development in this series has been pretty damn good. Hopefully it levels itself out in Series 3. And oh boy, I'm looking forward to Series 3. Definitely no particular reason at all. But Series 3 is where I did start to drop off from Sarah Jane. So this is where my memory starts to get a little bit more hazy with the show. So it's going to be fun getting into this. But either way, there's going to be a little bit of a wait. Don't forget to leave a like if you did enjoy. And of course, subscribe. That 10,000 is looking hella tasty right now, I can't lie. Make sure those notifications are on as I am releasing new videos every single month and also uploading more frequently on my second channel, DTDW Reacts, where I am reacting to all episodes of the Sarah Jane Adventures, Doctor Who, and more. And other than that though guys, I will love you and leave you. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.